Greetings. I'm Walt Bauer, and I'd like to welcome you to the Human Development Institute's second fall seminar. My brief visual description is, I am a white male wearing glasses with hazel eyes and a blue shirt with a yellow tie. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am sitting in front of a virtual background. My virtual background is a 3-story brick academic building that has offices for the Human Development Institute on the University of Kentucky campus. We welcome all the participants who are joining us. Our moderator and panelists will provide an opportunity for questions today. And we welcome questions from all of our participants. Please type your questions for our speakers in the Q&A box for a robust question and answer session. If you hover over the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see the Q&A option. Please use the chat box for technical questions. We have live captioning for the webinar in the closed captioning feature. Turn on the captioning by clicking on the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen and then clicking Show Subtitle. Should you have any questions about CEUs, you can contact me. My email address is walt.bauer@uky.edu. Again, my email address is walt.bauer@uky.edu. Please take a moment to complete our brief evaluation. You will receive an email following the seminar that provides a link to access the session evaluation. It is really helpful as we plan for upcoming webinars. The title of the webinar is, Oh, the Places You'll Go, Transportation Access in Kentucky. It is a pleasure and a privilege to introduce our moderator for today. Maria Kemplin is the moderator. Maria Kemplin is the project director for the Transportation Initiative at the Human Development Institute at the University of Kentucky. I'm now going to turn it over to Maria.
Hi, thank you. So my name is Maria, and I use she, her pronouns, and I work at the Human Development Institute, and I live in Lexington, Kentucky. I am a blonde 50-year-old with a white shirt on. I have long hair, and I'm really excited to be moderating this panel today. One thing I'd like to ask folks, if you're not a panelist, if you would turn your video off so that I will be able to focus on my panelists, that will help me. Thank you. So the topic today is called, Oh, the Places You'll Go.
Yellow, red.
Yes, sir. We're done.
Also, if folks could mute, that would be great too. Thank you. Except our panelists. Our topic today is called, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And we're calling it this because when we finish high school, many of us get the classic book, Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. And I love that thought, a world of opportunity ahead of you. We have a panel of 5 friends today who certainly have many places to go. And we're going to start off with our youngest panelist, Gracie. So Gracie is an 18-year-old who lives in Lexington, Kentucky. She has an intellectual and developmental disability, and she graduated high school from Model Laboratory School. She now attends the Life Skills program at Tates Creek High School. Within the past year, Gracie's learned to navigate the school bus system, and she receives rides through the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. That allows her to train at her child care job site. Gracie also uses transportation through her community living support provider, through the Michelle P. waiver, as well as through her friends and family. So Gracie's going to start with our first question, and that is, who was one person that made you believe that you could go anywhere and do anything? So tell us a little about that person.
And it was more than one person. My dad, my brother,
Rachel, Mom, Chelsea, and my friends have all supported me and have helped me in different ways to achieve my goals.
That's a great answer, Gracie. Thanks for sharing that with us. So I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the panelists. We'll start with Ashley. Ashley, if you will introduce yourself and then tell us who the one person is that made you believe you could go anywhere and do anything. And you want to unmute first, Ashley.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, my name is Ashley Lane. I currently live in Ashland, Kentucky, but I'm a rehabilitation counseling student in my final semester. I have cerebral palsy, and I have my own van, and rely on my aides from the Michelle P. waiver to take me places. And then I also have friends and family that take me places. But I have my own transportation. And my visual description, I'm wearing a red sweatshirt. I have a ponytail, I have brown hair, and hazel eyes. And I'm in my room. I have a green wall behind me.
Thank
So,
you, Ashley.
and my one person that was, well, there's not really one person, but I'm switching position. But I guess when I turned 18, my case manager, Mary Beth Baumgardner, she was the one that got me to go to Eastern, and that was my first time living away from home. And she was like, you can do this. You can go to college, and we will have the right supports for you. And that was really my catapult to do everything I'm doing now, was going to college.
Oh, that's great.
So
Thanks for sharing that with us. Andrea, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us who your one person is?
Well, my name is Andrea Strasberg. I'm 57 years old. I have shoulder-length blonde hair. I'm wearing a multicolored shirt. And my whole family encouraged me to treated me like I didn't have any disability at all growing up after my first seizure at 3.5. And being in a coma at 6 months old. My background is chairing the Mayor's Commission for People with Disabilities and having a master's in rehabilitation counseling. But my great grandfather, talking to him one day when I was younger, said, if you don't like the way something's being done, be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So that catapulted me to, because transportation has been an issue for me my whole life. I've never had a full license my whole life. So I've had to take the bull by the horns, so to speak, and just teach myself. I come from Ashland, Kentucky. There is no real good transportation that for the quality of life I was used to. So I moved to Lexington, Kentucky, and tried to make things better for transit and things of this nature. but my grandfather's and my mother would not let me get away with crap, saying I can't because she said get out there and play with the rest of them. So here I'm out here trying to make life better for everyone.
Thank you, Andrea. So Danielle is our friend that's off, her video's off, but I want to call on Danielle next to introduce herself and answer our question. Danielle, you might be muted still.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hang on. Actually, I have no idea why my video is off. I did not turn it off.
Oh,
Oh,
why don't you answer the question first?
yeah, I will do that. I will
And
do
then
that.
you can turn your video on while we're going to the next person.
Sounds good. My name is Danielle Burton. I am originally from Olive Hill, Kentucky, and I'm a graduate of Eastern Kentucky University's Deaf Studies program as of a couple of years ago. And I have recently, about a year and a half ago, I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and I am working in the field of digital accessibility. I just recently accepted a job at the American Printing House for the Blind as the communications accessibility editor. And my role will essentially be ensuring that documents, multimedia, podcasts, videos, all of those are fully accessible to everybody, regardless of disability. And that would be my job. Um, I identify as deaf blind, and I been a part of the deaf blind community for quite a while now, and I travel with my she's my second guide dog, and I've been a guide dog handler for 9 years now. And for me, I would say I would start out with my parents. Growing up, my parents always expected me to participate. They expected me to be able to do well in school, to get around, to travel. I was always encouraged to do those things. They let me get on a plane when I was 17 years old by myself. I'm sure my father was probably terrified. Actually, I know he was. But, they let me do it. They were always crucial in not holding me back. So between my parents, I had a teacher of the blind who is also blind, and I have done blindness training at an NFB center. So between all of those, so a lot of individuals played a part in making sure that I knew from an early age that I can do whatever it is I need to do.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Danielle. Katie, we haven't heard from you yet. If you want to unmute and tell us about yourself.
Yes, of course, Maria. Thank you. I'm Katie Looney, and I'm Ashley is one of my very dear friends. I live near her. I live in Russell, Kentucky, and I was born with spina bifida, and I use a wheelchair most of the time getting around. I have a vehicle that was modified for me. It's a Chrysler Pacifica, and I'm very blessed because I'm able to drive my own vehicle. I had it modified for me to drive with hand controls and a lift for my chair to come out with a ramp and everything. So it's been wonderful. I haven't had it for very long, but it's been such a blessing for me to have. I'm currently working as a reading interventionist at Catlettsburg Elementary right now with K through 5. And somebody that I feel like, and I think someone said that they could say several people, but and I'm the same way. There's several people throughout my life that have pushed me and in several ways to be independent. Namely my parents have always, from the time I was born, they've always tried to push me to do whatever I needed to do, whatever I wanted to do in life. They wanted to make sure that nothing stopped me, and wanted to make sure that I knew, like, I have a disability, but I can do anything that I want to do in life. So they have been they've been two very strong forces when it comes to that in my life. And also I've had a couple of educators that I've had in life, my kindergarten teacher and a couple others, that from the time they knew me, they knew my potential and they knew that I was capable of anything that I wanted to do. And so they really pushed me in that way too. Just really my family, and I have a boyfriend who's phenomenal, and he helps me in any way that he can. He's really great about doing anything that I need to help me out, and also knows my potential and knows that there's nothing that can stop me. If, you know, once I set out to do something, I'm going to do it. So.
Aw, I love that, Katie. So I want to ask you guys the next question, and we'll start with Gracie. And the next question is, we are all so much more than our disability. We have so many things going on in our lives, activities and jobs and education. I want you guys to tell me, what is one thing that you would cross the country to do? Gracie, can you unmute and tell us?
Yes, I would go to Florida.
You would go to Florida for the beach?
Yeah,
Do you like the beach?
yes.
Oh, that's great. Ashley, what about you? What would you cross the country to do?
Well, ladies, I'll get out.
Can y'all hear me? I muted myself. Okay. So, you may or may not know that I have a long distance relationship, and my boyfriend Daniel, who also has CP, lives in California. So I got over my fear of being on a plane. I hated flying, which I will go into here in a second. But he's been here in Ashland once, and I have flown out to see him twice. And we just recently came back from an Ed Sheeran concert. So that was amazing to be able to fly out to California to spend some quality time with him and his family, and experience that with him.
That's so cool. Ashley goes to more concerts than I do. She's in her concert years. Andrea, what about you? What's something you would cross the country to do?
Well, I kind of did last fall, going to the National Convention for Independent Living. That was very insightful, and heard from different people around the United States and what's doable and things of this nature, and how it's possible in different respects, and it was very insightful and well worth it.
That's great. Danielle, if you want to unmute and tell us what you would cross the country to do.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. This is Danielle. I have kind of crossed the country. I went to Las Vegas in 2019 for the National Federation of Divine National Convention. That's probably the farthest I've traveled, but I've traveled to other states like Minnesota and Texas, and haven't made it to California yet. So I think for me, just, I don't know if there's really anything in particular. I kind of jump on it. If it's something I really want to go to and it's across the country, I'm going to go do it.
Oh, thanks, Danielle. Katie, what about you?
Okay, so I know this probably sounds like a super basic answer, but something I would cross the country to do is simply just to travel. I have not done a whole lot of traveling in my life, and there's so much out there in the world. There's so many beautiful places to visit and things to do, and I would just travel just simply for the journey of it. I did some traveling when I was younger in middle and high school with a church choir. But we obviously had like our own itinerary. We would go to like different churches and soup kitchens and places like that to sing. And then we did some fun things, but like I said, there's so much out there in the world to do, and there's so many things that every place offers that, you know, you just can't get to it all. And so I would just travel for the journey, basically.
Oh, that's great. So we're going to go to a different question now. And this question is, we call supports provided during high school that get you ready for grown-up life. We call those transition planning. And this can happen with your IEP or your 504 team, or you might have had meetings with OVR. So what was your transition experience like? If you could tell us just in a couple sentences what your transition experience is like. Gracie's got an answer for this one.
I started taking the school bus just this year home from school. My job coach, Mr. Bodrick, drives me to work.
That's a great answer. Does anybody else want to talk about their transition years?
I will. So, when I was in high school, I had kind of a different experience, obviously, than the rest of my friends. At 16, I was having a surgery on my leg at the time. And all my friends were getting their permits and license and all these things, and they were driving, and I could not do that because my surgery recovery held me up for about a year, which was not fun. And so I kind of felt delayed and all of that. So I kind of felt like it was a big setback. But when I was all healed and ready to get behind the wheel and everything, I had to go through a lot of paperwork, but vocational rehab granted me the ability to have my car modified. And I ended up with a driver trainer from UK who is phenomenal. And she kind of taught me how to drive with hand controls and all of those things to help me get more independent. And I've gone through, I want to say 3 vehicles since then. My Pacifica has been my third. And it's been a wonderful thing. OVR is wonderful, and they have done so many good things for me as far as the modifications that they allowed me to have through Superior Mobility in Lexington. They are who has done my modifications for every vehicle that I've had, and they're wonderful. So,
well, thank you. That was a good answer.
Yeah.
I want to ask a different question for you guys. At what point did you realize that transportation was going to be different for you than it was for other people? Like, how old were you? And in a couple words, what did that feel like when you realized, oh gosh, transportation is going to be different for me? Ashley, do you want to tell us?
So I got my we didn't have any modified vehicle until I well, first of all, I started out I'm a triplet, so my brother and sister would go with me to and from school. My brother would drive us to school in the morning. My mom was a teacher, so she would go to work at the middle school, and she would drive us, or Philip would drive us to high school, my brother. So, you know how young teenagers are, especially teenage boys, they wouldn't be caught dead driving their mom's soccer van. So that was always an embarrassment for him to drive. And he did all the heavy lifting. He lifted me out of the car into my chair and pushed me into school, and so it wasn't until I graduated high school that we really started looking into transportation options. And then, like I said, when I went to EKU, I knew I would need my own vehicle. So that was, uh, we paid for part of it, and then Voc Rehab helped with the modifications and things like that. And I have to say that having a van has really helped my independence. Like, even though that I'm not able to drive, my coordinators through Voc Rehab have modified it to where I'm able to sit in the front next to whoever's driving, and it just allows me to see more of the world, and to be an active participant in what's going on. I kind of call myself passenger princess, and but and I use that term jokingly, but it's really allowed me just to be able to see more of the world, because I used to sit in the back and used to feel like I was missing out on a lot of things. So it's something so simple, but it's something so meaningful to be able to be part of your environment.
That's a really good point, Ashley. I wouldn't have thought of that, but you're right. That's the difference between sitting in the front seat and being cargo in the back seat it's a big difference. I'm going to
Sure.
ask a different question now, and Andrea might be able to speak to this one. Medicaid has a service called non-emergency medical transportation, and we call that NEMT. And it's a service provided by Medicaid that will take people that don't have their own transportation to Medicaid-related appointments. And this is a service that's door to door, and it's available at every location in Kentucky. No matter how rural you are, you can get NEMT service. So to set up the ride, you call a phone number. It's your regional transportation broker, and you give them your Medicaid card number and your Medicaid-related appointment information. So if you have used Medicaid NEMT, can you give us a few tips on what you need to know?
I have never, that came along after I worked myself off the social service system. So
Okay.
that is something that I have never encountered.
And you live in a city that has paratransit and the bus system also.
Yes, correct.
So you would mostly use like public transit to get to your medical appointments as well as work.
Correct.
Okay. Has anybody else used NEMT? No. Okay, well, we'll go on to the next question. We know big cities have a public transit system, like Lexington, Louisville, Northern Kentucky. They all have big public transit systems. Have you ever used the city bus, and where have you used it to go? Danielle, do you want to answer this one? Are you using public transit in Louisville yet?
I've used the TARC system a few times. I've not used it a ton, but I have had a bus experience in other cities. I did it in Moorhead, and a couple times in Richmond, and I did it a lot in my training when I was in Minneapolis. So I'm very comfortable with it. I just because of Progressive here, unless I haven't really got on the Louisville one too often much, just the transit app that I kind of rely on a little more heavily because I am deafblind and can't hear the stops. There was a period of time where it was kind of broken, so I didn't really touch the buses here too much by myself because I was like, well, I don't have the app to kind of tell me. But with that being said, I have used buses here in Louisville before with my dogs. And for me, I really enjoy it when I do have that chance. I find a bus stop, and as long as you kind of know the system a little bit, and like if it's an east, what, as long as you know if it's like east westbound or north southbound, you can also, do problem solve and figure out what side of the street the bus is going to be on and how to get there. And it's kind of a logical knowing your streets, knowing your address system a little bit, and knowing how the buses travel.
The app technology that you mentioned is super cool. When it's available, it's a big help. And that's the app technology is something the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet wanted to bring so that folks could have on their smartphone an easy way to navigate the bus system. And it will show you even the bus coming on the map. It's a really neat benefit. And I think Andrea is even using that with paratransit, is the app might be available. Andrea, do you want to tell us about how you learned to ride public transit to get all the places you needed to go?
Sure. When I first came to Lexington, um, I thought it would only be the right thing to do to live within walking distance of where I knew I had to be, and that was UK. Because I came to finish off my 4-year degree and in the process got a job at UK Healthcare. And so I could walk to all that from my first apartment, and then I just got on the bus system and on my days off and would ride it just to see where I could get to on the bus line, where it would take me, where I could go, where I couldn't go, or if I had to get a taxi instead of rely on the bus, I knew to do that. But I had to learn the city and where the bus would get me and where it would always go when they tried a new route and then discontinued it because they didn't have enough riders on the bus. So when you learn the bus system, it makes it a lot easier to go out and get a job because you don't want to be on the bus for 3 hours to get to a job. I figured out I wanted to be on the same bus route that my job was on, so I wouldn't be on the bus for half my life getting to and from work.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something folks would need to think about is where you live and what transportation resources are available. Like you moved to Lexington just because you knew you would need a good public transit system in order to live your best life.
Yes, that is correct. I grew up in Ashland, Kentucky, but where I lived, I was out in the county and there was no public transit that went out that far. And I didn't want to be dependent on others. I wanted to be dependent on myself to enable to be able to get around. So I came to Lexington because I talked my parents into it because I was going to school. I was on a public campus, and my brother was close, an hour away the other way, and they were 2 hours the other way. So it was kind of in the middle. So it put them at ease that it was fairly close by and that I was getting a place close to where I was gonna be so that I could always be dependent on myself and not have to be dependent on others, and I could learn my way around.
That's a great answer. I'm going to ask a different question, and it's sometimes driver shortages can be a problem, especially since COVID. Even the school systems have had trouble getting bus drivers to get kids to school. And some schools have even canceled school certain days because they didn't have enough bus drivers. So I'm sure this impacts public transportation. How do you advocate for yourself when it comes to your transportation that you need. If there's a problem with your transportation, or if you just don't have access to what you need, how do you advocate for yourself? Katie, do you want to start us off? Well, actually, I meant to say, Andrea.
You're fine.
Well, the way I was taught while I was actually an undergrad, getting my undergrad degree, someone said, if you really want people to listen to you and give them a full picture of what's really going on, show them how it affects them, how it affects you, why it's the right thing to do, and give them a source, do your homework, and show them where there's a source of funding to be able to do it, and at least they'll listen to you. If you can give them a source of funding, that's the main thing. And if you can show them how it affects them the same way, or how it could be set up so that it's in place when they need it, or if they should need it, and think about the big picture, they're more than happy to listen to you.
Yeah, that's good. Does anybody else want to chime in on this question? Gracie?